I shouldn't have clicked it, but it already knew I would. At first, it seemed harmless, a tiny, blinking pop-up in the corner of my screen, one of those annoying ads I usually ignore. I was scrolling through the usual late-night forums, half asleep, half bored, when it appeared. A simple message, click here to see what's real. Something about the phrasing made my skin crawl, but curiosity, stubborn, relentless curiosity, won. My cursor hovered, hesitated, and then clicked. The screen flickered. Just a subtle shimmer at first, like a monitor struggling with static. Then the pop-up expanded, larger, impossibly crisp, and the text changed. You've arrived. Now it begins. My heart stuttered. I laughed nervously, shaking my head at the absurdity. I told myself it was a prank, a glitch, maybe a cleverly designed scare from some bored hacker. But deep down, I knew it was something else. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. Even then, it felt alive. I could almost feel it watching, sensing my hesitation, predicting my fear. And that's the terrifying part. It wasn't just on the screen. There was a weight in the room, a pressure in my chest, a whisper at the edges of my awareness, reminding me that some things aren't meant to be seen. I stared at it for a long moment, frozen, wondering if I should close the tab. Part of me wanted to run, wanted to delete everything, pull the plug, and pretend it had never happened. But another part, the part that never listens, was already addicted. The thrill of forbidden knowledge, the hunger to see what should not exist, burned hotter than my fear. Looking back now, I realized the moment I clicked was the moment everything changed. My mundane browsing, the harmless scrolling, the late-night memes, the empty forum threads was gone. In its place was a pulse of something alive, something patient, and something that didn't forgive hesitation. I couldn't have stopped it, even if I wanted to. And that's when I knew this wasn't just another website. This wasn't just a pop-up ad or a prank. This was something far worse, and it wasn't confined to the screen. I've always been obsessed with the internet. Not in I spend 12 hours scrolling TikTok way, although okay, maybe a little in that way too. But my real fascination has always been the corners nobody talks about, the abandoned forums, the hidden subreddits, the threads that vanish after a day or two. You know the type, people sharing stories of strange messages, corrupted files, deep web encounters, and lost episodes of shows you thought you knew. I was the kind of person who bookmarked those threads, studied them, laughed nervously at the ones that made my skin crawl, and then immediately told myself I was overreacting. I spend too much time lurking, which obviously backfired. I've had my fair share of weird encounters, an email from a dead account, a corrupted image that seemed to move when I blinked, a 404 page that wasn't really a page at all but something else. People online have stories like these all the time, and most of the time they're harmless, or at least harmless enough to laugh about later. But this was different. My life, at least on the surface, was normal. I had classes, friends, occasional outings, and enough hobbies to convince people I wasn't a complete recluse. But online, in the late hours, I transformed into a different version of myself, the kind of person who chased breadcrumbs, who clicked links nobody else would dare touch, who dove into rabbit holes that often ended in more questions than answers. I thought I was prepared for anything, prepared for the strange, the unsettling, the mildly terrifying. But nothing could have prepared me for the pop-up. Before that night, my worst experiences had been minor. A forum post claiming a webcam recorded things that didn't exist. A Reddit thread about a haunted video game cartridge that erased save files. Weird. Yes. Terrifying. In hindsight, only practice. I remember scoffing at some of the more extreme accounts, typing comments like "sure, Jan," and moving on. I never imagined that one day, the thing that shouldn't exist would present itself not as a story, not as a file to be downloaded, but as a blinking, pulsing prompt on my own screen, when I would click, and that click would change everything. Every day I followed the same routines, logging on, browsing, lurking in corners of the web most people didn't even know existed. I told myself these were harmless habits, small adventures in a digital world filled with fleeting mysteries and faint chills. And they were until that night. It started so innocuously, so mundane. I was scrolling through threads about lost videos, strange software glitches, urban legends that somehow felt real. A light flickered on my screen. A tiny pop-up blinked in the corner. At first, I thought it was just another ad, another joke from some bored coder trying to spook late-night lurkers. But the wording, the timing, the sheer audacity, it was deliberate. And I knew deep down this was no ordinary glitch. It started innocently enough, or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. I was scrolling through a forum thread about a lost episode of an old cartoon I used to watch as a kid, one of those eerie, hidden content posts that claims to reveal something forbidden. My laptop hummed quietly, the only sound in my room, when a tiny pop-up blinked in the corner of my screen. It wasn't flashy, didn't have the usual garish colors of an ad. Just a dark gray box, minimalist, with a single line of text. Click here to see what's real. Oh, I froze. My cursor hovered over it, my thumb brushing the trackpad. I laughed nervously, trying to convince myself it was just a glitch, maybe a prank ad injected by the forum itself. I even considered taking a screenshot to post on Reddit later. Look at this weird glitch I found. But something about the timing, the phrasing, the way it seemed to pulse ever so slightly, it made the skin on my arms prickle. I opened a chat with my friend Jordan. Hey, you ever see a pop-up that just feels alive? Well, I typed, "Oh, what do you mean?" Jordan replied almost immediately. Like it's aware. Like it's watching. A few seconds passed, and Jordan's reply didn't come. The cursor on my chat window blinked endlessly, even though I knew my Wi-Fi was fine. My stomach sank. A tiny shiver ran down my spine. Ignoring the warning bells ringing in my head, I clicked it. The screen flickered, not in the way a monitor does when it's broken, but almost like a heartbeat, a subtle pulse that made the light in my room feel too bright and too unnatural. The URL bar changed instantly, no long, nonsense strings like a normal phishing attempt. Just a simple, clean address, www. What should no exist? Come. My eyes widened. I'd never seen a URL this simple. Usually something like this would be complicated, obscure, obviously fake. But this felt deliberate, intentional, perfect. At first glance, the page seemed normal. A white background, black text, a single image of a door slightly ajar, framed in perfect lighting, shadowed just enough to feel ominous. I leaned closer, squinting, convinced it was some sort of art project or a viral ARG. Then it moved. Not the image itself, well, not at first, but the shadows behind the door shifted slightly, like something breathing just out of sight. My cursor twitched against my will. The text on the page changed. I see you. I tried to laugh it off. Weird bug, I muttered to myself, but my fingers hovered, unwilling to move. My laptop fan whirred louder, as if it were straining or maybe warning me. I opened a new tab to Google the URL. Nothing. No mentions on forums, no Reddit threads, not even an archived page on Wayback Machine. It was as if the site had just appeared. My phone buzzed. A message from Jordan. Wait. Don't. You clicked something. I froze. My own panic started to set in. It's just a website. Jill. I typed back, but as soon as I pressed send, the message disappeared. My chat window blinked blank. Every instinct screamed at me to close the tab, shut down my laptop, do anything. But a pull, a subtle, insistent tug, kept my eyes glued. The page wasn't static. It wasn't just a file or a website. It was aware, watching me, reacting, waiting. And as the first shiver of unease ran down my spine, I realized that clicking the pop-up hadn't been a mistake. It had been an invitation. The first night after clicking, nothing seemed immediately wrong. I went to bed, telling myself I was just imagining things. But as soon as I closed my eyes, I felt it, the weight of the website lingering in the corners of my mind, a faint pressure behind my skull that wouldn't let me rest. When I woke, my laptop was open, displaying the pop-ups page as if it had never been closed. I swear I had shut it down. The next day, subtle glitches started to creep into my life. Notifications on my phone that I didn't recognize, blurred faces in old photos that hadn't been there before, browser tabs I didn't open. One notification read simply, "Looking good today." I froze. I live alone. No one had sent that. My hands shook as I scrolled back through my messages. Nothing. Just my own thumbprints on the screen. I tried to dismiss it, to laugh. It's just a coincidence, I told myself. But the incidents kept coming. Shadows moved differently in my apartment. Reflections in mirrors seemed a second behind my own movements, subtle but unmistakable. Once I looked up from my laptop, and the doorframe seemed stretched, elongated in a way that made the ceiling feel impossibly high. My pulse jumped, but when I blinked, everything appeared normal again. Then came the emails. Short, cryptic, always addressed to me, never from a real sender. "Why did you click?" One asked. Another's, "You can't hide now." I deleted them frantically, convinced that a hacker had somehow accessed my accounts. But each time I checked, the pop-up page had slightly changed. Text I hadn't seen before, phrases that seemed tailored to my own thoughts. "You're curious. You're weak. Your mind." Even interactions with friends became strange. Jordan called me one night, his voice low and jittery. "Dude, something's off. Your messages are weird. Like they're not coming from you." I laughed nervously, trying to convince him I was fine, that it was just stress. But even as I spoke, my reflection in the black screen of my idle laptop seemed to smirk back at me. By the third day, the incidents escalated. My browser would open randomly. Pages loaded with content I had never typed or searched for. Glitches appeared in real life, lights flickering when I moved through a room, my laptop fan spinning up without reason. Sometimes the pop-ups page would appear on my phone, even though I hadn't touched it, as if it was following me everywhere. I couldn't escape. And through it all, a quiet, insistent awareness seemed to hum beneath everything. The pop-up wasn't just a website. It was something that noticed me, responded to me, adapted. My curiosity, my hesitation, my fear, it was feeding on it, shaping the reality around me. By the end of that week, I was obsessed. I had to check. I had to know what it would do next. My life, once predictable and safe, was now a series of subtle horrors, each one building on the last, each one reminding me that clicking that pop-up wasn't a mistake. It was a beginning. By the time I realized I couldn't ignore it anymore, I had already crossed a line. I spent hours scouring forums, Reddit threads, and obscure archives for any mention of the pop-up. I typed every variation of the URL I could think of, scanned old threads about sentient malware, cursed websites, and lost digital media. Every lead seemed to circle back to nothing, except for hints, fleeting comments, and eerie half-truths. One Reddit thread caught my eye. It was titled, "I saw a website that followed me home." The post was archived, months old, and the user had disappeared shortly after posting. I scrolled through the comments. "That's not a website. That's a parasite. It feeds on curiosity. Don't click again. Once it knows you, it never forgets." I leaned back, heart pounding. This wasn't just a glitch. It wasn't just an ad. Something else was at play. I opened a new tab and typed the URL again. The screen blinked, and for the first time the page appeared different. Not just the same ominous door image, but layers beneath it. Shadowy forms shifting just out of focus. Words in a language I couldn't read, pulsing slightly as if alive. I decided to reach out to others who claimed to have seen similar things. I joined a small forum dedicated to cursed digital phenomena and posted a cautious inquiry. Has anyone encountered a website that follows you in real life? Responses were slow, fragmented, and chilling. One user wrote, "It's not the website itself. It's what it does to you. You'll see it everywhere, in the corners of your vision, in the patterns of your screen. It learns you." Another replied, "If you try to delete it, it reacts." I lost sleep for weeks before I unplugged everything. And even then, even reading their words, I felt the tug again. My laptop hummed softly, like a heartbeat, and I couldn't stop glancing at the corner of the screen. It felt aware of me, as if it knew I was studying it, analyzing it, trying to understand it. And I realized every click, every second spent peering into its structure was feeding it. I downloaded a network monitor to trace connections. Nothing. The IP address was clean, unregistered. No server logs. Yet my browser history had started behaving oddly, duplicating itself, inserting queries I had never typed. Messages started appearing, small pop-ups in the system tray, brief flashes of text on my screen that disappeared before I could read them. "Closer. Watching. Why are you still?" I checked my phone, my tablet, even my smart speaker. All devices seemed synchronized in some subtle, invasive way. The sense of being watched wasn't confined to a single machine. It followed me across devices, across spaces, across time. Every instinct told me to stop, to delete everything, to walk away from the screens forever. But something inside me, a mixture of fear, defiance, and obsession, kept pushing forward. I had to know how far it went, how deep the influence reached, what it was capable of. By the time I finally leaned back, exhausted, I understood one terrifying truth: knowledge came at a cost. The more I sought, the more it fed on me. And the deeper I explored, the more the line between the website and reality began to blur. I knew it was coming. I could feel it before I even sat down at my laptop that night, the same pull, the same low, insistent hum in the edges of my senses. Every instinct screamed to turn away, to unplug, to run, but it was too late. Curiosity had a hold on me, and I realized with a sinking dread that I wasn't just facing a website. I was facing something alive, something patient, something that had been waiting for me to cross that line. I opened my laptop. The screen pulsed like a heartbeat, the door image from before now fully open, shadows crawling out and stretching across the page. A single line of text appeared in bold, black letters: "Welcome back." My hands shook as I typed, "What are you?" Almost instantly, new text appeared, as if the page itself was reading my thoughts. "I am what you allowed. I am what you sought. I am inevitable." The words made no sense, yet they consumed every corner of my mind. I could feel it in the room with me now, pressing against my shoulders, in the flicker of the ceiling light, in the stutter of my own heartbeat. I realized that every attempt to control it, every late-night deep dive, every anxious click had given it more. More presence, more awareness, more power. I tried to close the tab. Nothing happened. The cursor froze, mocking me. Then the screen went black. For a brief second, relief flared in my chest, but it was quickly replaced by the faint outline of words glowing in the darkness. "Do not leave. Do not look away." My reflection in the black screen twisted, morphing into a version of myself I didn't recognize. Eyes too wide, lips curled into a grin that wasn't mine. A whisper echoed in my mind, soft, insistent, impossible to locate. "You wanted to see. Now see." I shouted aloud, but my voice sounded muffled, distant. The lights in my apartment flickered violently. Shadows stretched and twisted across the walls, forming shapes that moved independently. My laptop fan whirred like a living thing, beating in rhythm with some unseen heart. I tried again to step back, to pull the plug, but my body felt anchored. I realized with a horror that sank into my bones, I was part of it now. Every thought, every fear, every flicker of my gaze had been woven into its presence. I could almost hear it breathing with me, synchronizing with me, feeding on my awareness. The door on the screen shifted, opening wider, revealing a space I could not comprehend, walls that bled into darkness, shapes I could not name, a cold that seemed to extend beyond the room. And then the words appeared again, slower this time, deliberate. There is no undo. There is only you. Oh. I tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the weight pressing against my chest. I felt my own reflection lean closer, whispering words I could almost understand, a voice that was mine and not mine at the same time. You cannot leave. You will follow. Oh. Time fractured. Minutes stretched into eternities. I saw flashes of my life, memories twisting, screens opening and closing on their own, shadows creeping closer, whispering secrets I didn't want to know but could not stop hearing. I realized then that knowledge was not neutral. By clicking, by exploring, by seeking the forbidden, I had invited something into my reality. Something that could not be undone. And yet, even in the panic, even as I felt the pull of fear and despair, there was a part of me that wanted to linger, that wanted to see what came next, that wanted to understand it fully, even if understanding meant losing everything I thought I was. I knew with absolute certainty that I could not walk away. Not now. Not ever. The screen went black one last time. And in the silence that followed, I could still feel it. Watching. Waiting. Learning. Days have passed since that night, though time feels fractured now, like a broken clock skipping hours I can't account for. I try to go back to normal life, classes, errands, even hanging out with friends, but everything feels slightly off. Shadows linger a second too long. Reflections hesitate before mirroring my movements. Screens flicker when I glance away, as if reminding me that I'm still being watched. I keep telling myself it's paranoia, that I'm overreacting, that the pop-up is just a digital artifact of my own obsession. But I know better. Every time I sit at my laptop, that pull tugs at me. Even when I don't open the page, I can feel it, a subtle hum beneath the hum of the fan, the vibration of my phone, the faint pulse in the room's air. It hasn't left me, and I don't think it ever will. I've tried to distract myself. I binge shows, scroll endlessly, talk to friends, but the intrusion is always there. Tiny glitches, a notification that shouldn't exist, a message that disappears before I can read it, shadows moving in ways that shouldn't be possible. Every mundane moment is a reminder that what I clicked isn't just a website. It's something alive, patient, persistent, and aware. I know what curiosity costs. I know that every second I linger, every glance I give, is another thread tethering me closer to it. And yet I can't stop checking. I try to resist, I tell myself I won't open the page again, but the lure is irresistible. There's a voice in the silence, a pull in the shadows, a whisper in the static of my devices that calls me back. And so I warn you, if you're watching this, if you're reading this, think carefully before you click anything unfamiliar, anything that promises secrets or forbidden knowledge. Some doors once opened, never close. I'd love to hear from you, comments, theories, experiences. Has anyone else seen something like this? Or am I alone in what I've stumbled upon? The pop-up waits, patient. It always waits. And I know that at any moment it could reach through again, pull me back into its domain, show me truths I may never want to know. Life moves on, but I am no longer entirely part of it. A piece of me remains behind, watching, waiting, tethered to that single, blinking invitation. I live in the tension between the ordinary and the impossible, a constant reminder that some curiosities are irreversible, and that what I clicked is still very much alive. I shouldn't be telling you this. I know that. But the truth is, some part of me wants someone else to know, someone else to feel the pull, the fascination, the fear. Because the moment I clicked that pop-up, I realized curiosity isn't harmless. It's a gateway. And once you've seen what shouldn't exist, the world changes. You notice it in shadows, in screens, in the whispers of your own thoughts. I still check sometimes, even now. Just a glance, a reflex, a need to confirm that it's still there, or maybe to see if it's waiting for me to make the next mistake. And I have to wonder, what if it's waiting for you too? What if somewhere right now, it's blinking quietly on your screen, patient, insistent, alive? I can't stop thinking about the people who have encountered similar things, the threads that vanish, the stories deleted before anyone could save them. All the warnings ignored, all the curiosity rewarded with dread. I leave these breadcrumbs not to lure you, but to caution you and maybe to tempt you. If you think you're safe, think again. Sometimes a website isn't just a website. Sometimes a click isn't just a click. Sometimes curiosity comes at a price you can't imagine. So be careful out there. And if you do see something strange, something blinking quietly in the corner of your screen, remember my story. Pause, think, and maybe don't click. Or maybe, like me, you won't be able to resist. If you've ever felt this pull or seen something impossible online, comment below. Share your experience, your theories, your warnings. And if you want to follow the story, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this isn't over. Not for me and maybe not for you either. The website waits. Always.